Hello and welcome to another Diecast Restos vs Nick's Toy Garage build-off. This time, the task is to create a JDM Legends build. While I've no idea what car Nick will be picking, I've gone for a Datsun 260Z or Z from Matchbox that was kindly donated to me by Patreon supporter Tony Hughes. Cheers to Tony, hopefully this custom build does the car justice. It has been repainted white over what would have originally been a dark metallic pink shade, which is still visible inside the doors. While not strictly a JDM car by name and specification, the similarity to the Japanese domestic market Nissan Fairlady-Z S30 is close enough in diecast form to pass. The 260Z Superfast model was produced by Lesney from 1978 until their demise in 1982. Though cars could still be found in 1983 and 1984 multi-packs. The real S30 Nissan 240, 260 and 280Zs were produced between 1969 and 1978. And this is an example of a 260Z, or Z. My intention with this build is to fix the issues it has, including the wheels that don't seem to rotate properly. I'll just give it a nice new paint job, pick out some details, and nothing too major or fancy. The Fairlady-Z launched in Japan in 1969, sporting a 2-litre single overhead cam engine, rear-wheel drive, and a coupe body styled by Albrecht Goertz, whose previous design work included the BMW 507. The 240Z was launched to the international markets the same year, but with a 2.4-litre straight-six engine. Sold through Nissan's export brand Datsun's dealerships, the 240Z was available with a 4-speed manual in the US or a 5-speed elsewhere, with a 3-speed auto available from 1971. It was designed to compete with the established European sports car manufacturers, and it was priced to compete with the British-built MGB GT. By 1969, the GT was 4 years old. Datsun had built up an econobox image. Cheap, low frills, but reliable cars. They had a wide and growing dealership network, particularly across the US. This meant buyers had better accessibility to servicing over the 240Z's imported competitors from Britain, Italy and Germany. The 240Z successor, the 260Z, launched in 1974, but would only be available for 1 year in the US. Halfway through the 1974 model year, the car was modified to increase power output for the US market. Due to US emissions regulations, the 260Z had produced 140 horsepower, while elsewhere the 260Z kicked out 165 brake horsepower. The power upgrade also brought about the addition of the hideous 5 mph large safety bumpers. Awful. Happily though, the 260Z elsewhere kept the chrome-clad bumpers. A 2+2 coupe was introduced on the 260Z, which sat on a 300mm longer wheelbase. This car also had larger opening quarter-panel windows and a notched roofline. Now with all the plastics cleaned up, the car is ready for a caustic soda paint strip. The Datsun 280Z was released for the US market only in 1975, replacing the year-old 260. The engine was bored out to 2.8 litres. The bumpers continued to comply with the exterior protection legislation of the time. The 1975 and 76 vehicles had large, black, smooth moulded rubber fitments, but channels were left between the rubber struts for the 1977 and 78 model years. The 2-seat and 2+2 remained available on the 280Z. In 1978, the S30 Nissan platform, under its variety of names, was replaced by the S130, known as the Datsun 280ZX, or Nissan Fairlady-Z, depending on the market. Here you can see a split on the top of each A-pillar. That will need addressing with some model filler. I think my Humbrol filler has seen better days. So this build off with Nick is a JDM Legends build, and undoubtedly the Nissan Fairlady-Z cars range are some of the more iconic JDM vehicles. However, a common misconception is that JDM simply refers to a Japanese produced vehicle. This is not the case. More specifically, it refers to Japanese vehicles and parts that adhere to Japanese regulations and are made to suit Japanese buyers. Often, Japanese domestic market vehicles will differ greatly from the cars produced for export. In 1988, regulations were set by the Japanese Automobile Manufacturers Association that all JDM cars would be voluntarily self-restrained. These restraints included power output limited to 280 horsepower and top speeds of 180 km per hour. The horsepower limit was dropped in 2004, but the speed limit remains in effect. The Datsun by name would, by these rules, deem it not to be a JDM car, as it is sold for export. However, I'll give this a pass, as my custom job is creating a Nissan Fairlady-Z. Here you can see the first glimpse of the exterior colour being laid on, which is a lovely metallic red, but more of that later. I've got myself some Vallejo plastic putty to fill in those gaps that weren't filled in by the Humbrol. That tube has gone in the bin. Already, it's done a much better job. It's much less viscous, allowing it to fill the cracks more easily. Now I'm coating the seating on the interior with a base white coat, and filling in some chrome details on the dash and steering wheel. Just a little tickle on the gear knob there. I'm also leaving the tow hook in place, as that interior, besides all that paint now, is really in rather good condition. My thinking was that I could easily go back and strip the interior paint and then do a true restoration on one of these 260Zs. I've chromed up the bumpers using my Molotow chrome pen. And now I'm applying some Tamiya Red X7 to the seats. I'll smooth off the areas that I have filled with the Vallejo. And then carry on with some more chrome application. Now I'm applying the Tamiya TS95 Pure Metallic Red over the body, having smoothed off the Vallejo putty. I adore this shade, and I think it will suit this casting and this custom nicely. My red seats are now given a leather effect with application of some Citadel Gloss Nuln Oil. Now for some detailing. I'll first put a layer of Molotow chrome on each headlight. And I follow that up with the chrome side badges and as a base for the reflectors. Then the chrome trimmed door handles. The rear of the S30 had black across the entire tailgate, where the light cluster and registration plate could be found, so I emulate that with some Tamiya X1. It looks very high gloss at the moment, but once the light and registration detailing are filled, it should feel a little less bold and brash. As such, I put down some chrome as the base for the light clusters. I've done the number plate too with chrome lettering. On the headlights, I use some more X2 white. Then I use some red and orange Sharpies to colour in the tail lights. The side reflectors get a dash of orange, and the door cards are filled in black. Again, I use the Citadel gloss over the headlights, which will add a greater level of shading and depth. I've run along the panel and vent lines in the casting as well. I really love using this on custom jobs. It's very subtle and easy to do to improve your results without going overboard with the various pigments that you could apply and reapply to age your model. Anyway, Now it's time to reassemble. First I place the yellow tinted plastic window in. Next comes my customised red and black interior that I based off of photos found online of the real car. Lastly, I fit the base with my custom wheels already attached and waiting. So here is how the Matchbox 67D Datsun 260Z 2+2 looked when it arrived from Tony. It had been repainted white over its original pink, and I mentioned on my unboxing video that this would make a terrific custom car. Well, that has become this little Datsun's fate in my JDM Legends build-off with Nick's Toy Garage. So now, let's take a look and see how it turned out. Now it's much nicer in that lovely metallic red, reminiscent of the original pink metallic that previously lay beneath. I've done lots of detailing on the exterior and on the interior too, while those wheels absolutely set this car off. These resin mini light replicas fill the wheel wells very well indeed, and they make the original Matchbox set look puny. The back end has been coloured and detailed, while I retained the tow hook for future projects, so I gave it a little chrome tip. I'm absolutely chuffed to bits with how this car came out, and as ever, can't wait to see how Nick's JDM car looks. Don't forget to check out his build, I'll leave a link below, and be sure to subscribe to us both if you enjoyed this classic build-off. As ever, check out my Patreon and Instagram for all my latest. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again for the next one. Bye for now.